The emergency council chamber on Vraxis Prime had never felt so cold. General Korth'ax stood at the center of the circular platform, his 4 arms clasped behind his back, trying desperately to maintain the composure expected of a decorated military commander. Around him, the holographic projections of the High Council flickered with barely contained fury. "You did what?" Elder Thresika's voice cut through the silence like a plasma blade. Korth'ax's throat sacs inflated slightly, a nervous gesture he immediately regretted. "I left my offspring with the human battalion. Temporary custody. During the evacuation of Sector 7, the council chamber erupted. 17 voices, speaking in 4 different languages, all expressing the same sentiment. Absolute horror. The humans. Council member Vex Thor bellowed, his scales turning a deep purple. The species that eats fermented plant matter for recreation. The ones who invented something called extreme ironing. Those humans? In my defense, Korth'ax began, raising one hand. The Krillian assault was approximately 40 seconds from breaching our position. My cubs were 300 meters from the nearest shelter. The human commander, a female named Lieutenant Morales, offered immediate protection. And you accepted? Age. Thresika leaned forward, her eyes narrowing to slits. They had a fortified position. Heavy artillery. Energy shields. What was I supposed to do, Elder? Carry 3 cubs while operating a plasma cannon? Silence fell. It was the kind of silence that preceded either wisdom or catastrophe. Finally, Ambassador Quintal spoke, his tone measured. General, you are aware of human reputation, yes? They are the species that keeps carnivorous animals in their homes. They consume liquids that would dissolve our stomach linings. They engage in recreational falling from aircraft. They are, and I mean this with all due respect to their contributions to the Alliance, completely insane. I am aware, Korth'ax said quietly. Your cubs are 6 cycles old, barely verbal, highly impressionable. Quintal paused. When will they be returned? Lieutenant Morales estimated 72 hours, once the sector is secured. 72 hours. Vex Thor nearly fell from his hovering platform. Do you have any idea what humans can teach in 72 hours? My nephew spent one afternoon with human engineers and returned asking why we don't just strap rockets to everything. He's now banned from 3 space stations. Korth'ax said nothing. What could he say? The decision was made. His 3 cubs, Rynn, Kael, and little Mira, were currently in the care of humanity's finest soldiers. He could only hope they would survive the experience with their sanity intact. Lieutenant Jessica Morales stood in the temporary barracks, staring down at 3 small, scale-covered beings who looked up at her with enormous golden eyes. They were roughly the size of human 7-year-olds, with delicate horns just beginning to emerge from their foreheads and tails that twitched with every emotion. Okay, she said slowly, crouching down to their level. So, your dad had to go fight the bad guys. That means you're hanging with us for a few days. We're gonna keep you safe. Got it? The middle cub, Kael, tilted his head. Are you going to eat us? What? No. Why would I eat you? Father says humans are unpredictable. The smallest one, Mira, whispered. He says you do things that make no sense, just to see what happens. Well, your father's not entirely wrong, Sergeant Marcus Webb said, walking up behind Jessica. He was carrying 3 MRE packets and a football, because of course he was. But we draw the line at eating kids. That's pretty universal. The eldest cub, Rynn, stepped forward with surprising confidence. What is that spherical object? This. Marcus tossed the football from hand to hand. This is a football. Well, technically it's not a sphere. It's a prolate spheroid. But who's counting? You throw it, you catch it, and sometimes people tackle each other over it. For what purpose? Fun. All 3 cubs stared blankly. Okay. We've got work to do here, Jessica muttered. She activated her comm unit. This is Morales. I need the cultural integration kit, 3 child-sized sleeping bags, and someone get me Private Anderson. If anyone can explain human logic to aliens, it's her. 18 hours later, General Korth'ax received his first update. It came in the form of a video transmission, marked urgent. His primary heart sank. This was it. His military career was over. Probably his freedom too. The humans had broken his cubs somehow. He opened the file. The image showed the human barracks common area. His 3 cubs sat at a metal table, surrounded by 6 human soldiers. There were cards spread across the surface, colorful pieces of paper with numbers and symbols. Rynn was holding several cards close to his chest, his face showing a concentration Korth'ax had never seen before. "I raise you 5 ration bars," Rynn said in perfect human common. "The kid's bluffing," one soldier said, a female with bright red hair. "I call." Rynn laid down his cards with a dramatic flourish. Royal flush. The soldiers erupted in groans and laughter. The red-haired one threw her cards down. "How? You're 6. You shouldn't even understand probability theory yet." Private Anderson explained the mathematical principles, Rynn said calmly, sweeping the pile of ration bars toward himself. "It was quite logical once I understood the pattern distribution." Korth'ax paused the video. His cub, his quiet, studious Rynn, was hustling human soldiers at poker. He didn't know whether to be proud or horrified. He chose both. The next clip showed Kael in what appeared to be a training exercise. The young cub was running through an obstacle course, his smaller size allowing him to slip under barriers that gave the humans trouble. A sergeant was shouting encouragement. "That's it, little man. Use those reflexes. Faster, faster. You've got this." Kael crossed the finish line and immediately collapsed, breathing hard. Lieutenant Morales appeared with a water container. "Good job, Kael. You just beat Corporal Stevens' time." "Really?" Kael's eyes went wide. "Really? You're a natural." A human voice off camera. "Lieutenant, should we be training the general's kid like a recruit?" He asked to try it. What was I supposed to say? "No? Look at that face." The camera zoomed in on Kael's expression, pure joy mixed with exhaustion. The final clip was somehow worse. Little Mira sat in a circle with 5 soldiers, all of them cross-legged on the floor. One human, a large male with a shaved head, held a stuffed animal. So then the captain says, "That's not a supply closet, that's the ambassador's quarters." And we had to apologize for 3 hours. The soldiers laughed. Mira's tail swished back and forth, a sign of contentment. "Tell another one," she chirped. All right. So there was this time on Deneb Station, when Sergeant Webb decided to see if he could reprogram the gravity plates in the mess hall. Korth'ax closed the transmission. His cubs were fine, more than fine. They were thriving. Somehow, against all probability and common sense, the humans were taking excellent care of them. His comm unit blinked. Another message from Lieutenant Morales. Text only. "General, your kids are doing great. Rynn has won 17 consecutive card games and may have a gambling problem. We're monitoring it. Kael asked if he could enlist when he grows up. We said he has to finish school first. Mira has learned 12 human curse words despite our best efforts. We'll address this. They're safe, healthy, and eating well. No incidents. We'll provide updates every 12 hours. Respectfully, LT Morales." Korth'ax felt his tension ease slightly. Perhaps this would be fine. Perhaps humanity's chaos was exactly what his cubs needed right now. A distraction from the war, from the fear, from the uncertainty of their world. He composed a response. "Lieutenant, thank you for the update. Please continue current protocols. And Lieutenant, if my daughter teaches those curse words to the Council's offspring when she returns, I will deny all knowledge of their origin." The response came immediately. "Understood, sir. Though between us, she learned them from Corporal Stevens, and he's already on latrine duty for the next month." Morales out. Day 3 arrived with unexpected complications. The Krillian forces had retreated faster than anticipated, which meant the sector was secure, which meant it was time to return the cubs. Lieutenant Morales assembled her squad in the barracks. "Okay, people. The general's inbound to pick up his kids. I need this place spotless. I need those cubs ready to go. And I need somebody to explain to Kael why he can't keep the combat knife Sergeant Webb gave him. It's a training knife," Webb protested. "Blade's retractable. He's 6. He's very responsible for 6. Jessica pinched the bridge of her nose. 72 hours. Just 72 hours with 3 alien children, and her entire squad had become attached. Rynn had taught Private Anderson advanced statistical analysis. Kael had somehow improved their morning PT times by introducing a competitive element. Mira had made everyone friendship bracelets using paracord and equipment ties. "Listen up," Jessica said firmly. "We did our job. We kept them safe. Now they go home to their father, and we don't make this harder than it needs to be. Got it?" "Yes, ma'am," came the chorus of responses, none of them particularly convincing. The transport arrived precisely on schedule. General Korth'ax emerged, his military bearing perfect, his expression carefully neutral. He walked into the barracks, expecting the worst. What he found was his 3 cubs standing in a perfect line, shoulders back, chins up, hands clasped behind their backs in a parade rest position. "Sir," they shouted in unison. "Cubs reporting, sir." Korth'ax stopped walking. His secondary heart skipped a beat. Lieutenant Morales stepped forward, saluting crisply. "General, returning 3 cubs, safe and sound. No injuries, no incidents, no problems." "Lieutenant," Korth'ax said slowly, "why are my children standing at attention?" "Well, sir, they asked to participate in morning formations. We couldn't really say no. They picked it up pretty quickly. They're 6. Very observant 6-year-olds, sir." Korth'ax approached his cubs. Rynn's eyes tracked forward, not breaking formation. Kael's tail was rigid, clearly fighting the urge to fidget. Mira was vibrating with barely suppressed excitement but holding position. "At ease," Korth'ax said quietly. The cubs relaxed instantly, and then chaos erupted. All 3 rushed forward, talking over each other. "Father, I learned probability theory and strategic thinking. Father, I can do 20 pull-ups now. Father, I made friends and learned new words, but Lieutenant Morales says I'm not allowed to say most of them." Korth'ax knelt down, gathering all 3 into his arms, his relief overwhelming. They were safe. They were happy. They were changed. "Did you behave yourselves?" he asked. "Yes, Father," they chorused. "Did you learn anything useful?" Rynn pulled back, his expression serious. "I learned that humans are not insane, Father. They are simply operating on a different risk assessment model. Once you understand their priorities, their behavior becomes quite logical. I learned that physical limits are mostly in your head," Kael added, "and that competition makes everything better." Mira grinned, showing all her tiny teeth. "I learned that families come in all shapes and sizes, and sometimes the scariest-looking people give the best hugs. Also, curse words, but I'm not supposed to share those." Korth'ax looked up at Lieutenant Morales, who shrugged with a smile. "Your children are remarkable, General. It was an honor." "The honor was mine, Lieutenant. Thank you for keeping them safe." "Anytime, sir." She hesitated. "Though, if I may suggest, Rynn should be monitored around any games of chance. The kid's a card shark." The flight back to Vraxis Prime was filled with stories. His cubs talked non-stop, describing everything they'd experienced, everyone they'd met, everything they'd learned. Korth'ax listened, his heart's full. When they finally arrived home, the council demanded an immediate report. Korth'ax stood once again in the circular chamber, but this time, his cubs stood beside him. Elder Thresika looked down at the young ones. "Well, what did the humans teach you?" Rynn stepped forward. "They taught us that strength isn't just physical. That family is who stands with you, not just who shares your blood. That fear is natural, but courage is choosing to act anyway." Kael bounced slightly. "They taught us that our bodies can do way more than we think, and that teamwork makes everything easier, and that breakfast tastes better when everyone eats together." Mira raised one small hand. "They taught us that even in war, you can find moments of kindness, and that laughing in the dark makes the darkness smaller, and that humans really like duct tape, even though nobody can explain why." The council sat in stunned silence. Finally, Ambassador Quintal spoke, his voice softer than Korth'ax had ever heard. "Perhaps we have underestimated humanity. If they can teach such wisdom to cubs in 3 days, imagine what we could learn in a lifetime." General Korth'ax placed his hands on his children's shoulders. "Humanity is chaotic. Yes. Unpredictable. Absolutely. But there is method in their madness, and honor in their chaos. My cubs learned more in 72 hours than I could have taught them in 72 days. He looked down at Rynn, Kael, and Mira, seeing them differently now. Stronger, braver, changed by their encounter with Earth's finest. "The humans," he said quietly, "may be insane, But perhaps that is exactly what this universe needs. 6 months had passed since the incident on Sector 7, and General Korth'ax had almost convinced himself that life had returned to normal. Almost. The problem was his cubs, who had become minor celebrities across 3-star systems. The breakfast table on Vraxis Prime was never quiet anymore. "Father, the Academy rejected my early application again," Rynn announced, pushing his nutrition paste around his plate. "They say I'm too young for advanced tactical studies, despite my test scores ranking in the 98th percentile. You're 7 cycles old," Korth'ax reminded him gently. "The human educational system would allow accelerated placement. We are not human." Kael looked up from the holographic display he'd been studying, showing various physical training routines. "Speaking of humans, Lieutenant Morales sent another message. She says their unit is being deployed to the Outer Rim. They'll be near the Drakon border." Korth'ax's spine stiffened. The Drakon Confederacy was no place for casual deployment. Tensions had been escalating for months, ever since the trade route disputes began. "When do they ship out?" "Next week." Mira, who had been unusually quiet, finally spoke up. Her voice was small. "Will they be safe?" The question hung in the air. Korth'ax saw the worry in his daughter's eyes, recognized it as the same concern he felt every time his own troops deployed into danger. His cubs hadn't just spent 72 hours with humans. They'd bonded with them. "The lieutenant's squad is highly trained," he said carefully. "They can handle themselves. But the Drakon are different from the Krillian," Rynn interjected, his analytical mind already working the problem. "Their tactics rely on overwhelming numbers and psychological warfare. The humans' preference for small unit cohesion could be a disadvantage in prolonged engagements." Korth'ax stared at his son. 7 cycles old, and already thinking like a military strategist. "Where did you learn about Drakon combat doctrine?" "I read the after-action reports from the Deneb conflicts. They're in the public archive. Those reports are written in military code." "I know. Private Anderson taught me basic cryptography when we played strategy games." "Of course she did." Korth'ax made a mental note to send Anderson a thank you message, or possibly a restraining order. He hadn't decided which yet. The communication came 3 weeks later. In the middle of the night cycle, Korth'ax was pulled from sleep by the urgent chime of his secure terminal. The message was marked Priority Alpha, which meant either a major diplomatic incident or something worse. He opened the file. Admiral Thane's weathered face appeared on screen. "General, we have a situation. Human Battalion 77, Lieutenant Morales's unit, has gone dark. Last transmission indicated they were ambushed during a reconnaissance mission near Drakon space. We've lost all contact for the past 48 hours. Korth'ax felt ice spread through his veins. "Casualties? Unknown. A rescue operation is being organized, but it's complicated. The area they vanished in is technically neutral space, but the Drakon have been aggressive about territorial claims. Sending in a full military force could trigger an incident. We need a small team, something that won't look like an invasion." "What are you asking, Admiral?" Thane's expression became grim. "You know that region better than anyone. You served 3 tours near the Drakon border. We need your expertise." "But General, I need to be clear. This is voluntary. High risk. Low probability of success. If you decline, no one will question it." Korth'ax's mind raced. His duty was to his cubs, to keep them safe, to be there for them. But the humans who had protected those same cubs were in danger. The humans who had taught Rynn strategy, pushed Kael to exceed his limits, made Mira laugh during the darkest hours of the evacuation. "I'll do it," he said. "When do we leave?" 4 hours. "And General, thank you." The transmission ended. Korth'ax sat in the darkness, trying to figure out how to explain this to his cubs. He didn't have to wait long. The door to his quarters opened. 3 small figures stood silhouetted in the hallway light. "We heard," Rynn said simply. "You're going after them," Kael added. "Can we help?" Mira asked. Korth'ax looked at his offspring, seeing not cubs anymore, but young beings with courage beyond their years. "This is dangerous. Military operation. No place for children. We're not asking to go," Rynn clarified, stepping forward. His golden eyes were bright with determination. "But we can help prepare. Kael knows Lieutenant Morales's physical capabilities and limitations. I've studied regional star charts because I was curious about their deployment. Mira, tell him. The smallest cub approached, holding a datapad. I kept all the stories the soldiers told us. About how they think, how they make decisions, what they value. If you're going to find them, you need to think like them. Korth'ax felt his throat sacs tighten with emotion. His cubs were offering intelligence, real tactical intelligence, because they'd paid attention during those 3 days. Because they cared. Show me everything, he said. The briefing room at Alliance Command was crowded with specialists from 6 different species. Korth'ax stood at the central display, manipulating the holographic star chart with practiced ease. The last known position was here. He indicated a sector marked in red. Based on Lieutenant Morales's documented decision-making patterns, if they survived the initial ambush, they would have moved to high ground. She favors defensive positions with multiple exit routes. How can you possibly know her patterns? Commander Vrelick challenged. You've met her once. Twice, actually. And my cubs spent 72 hours observing her command style. According to their notes, she prioritizes crew safety over mission completion, adapts quickly to changing situations, and has a tendency to use unconventional solutions. He pulled up another display, this one showing terrain analysis. There are 3 locations within their possible travel distance that match her preferences. We hit all 3 simultaneously, small teams, fast insertion. The Drakon will detect us, let them. We're not invading. We're conducting a rescue operation in neutral space. If they interfere, they're admitting to an unprovoked attack on Alliance personnel. Admiral Thane nodded slowly. It's risky, but it might work. General, you'll lead Team 1, Commander Vrelick, Team 2. Captain Horns, Team 3. You have 6 hours to prep. Move out at dawn cycle. The approach to the target zone was tense. Korth'ax's team consisted of 12 specialists, all veterans, all volunteers. The shuttle cut through space on minimal power, running silent to avoid detection. General, I'm picking up faint energy signatures, the pilot reported. Could be residual weapons discharge, could be active power sources. The signal's too weak to confirm. That's our target. Take us down, 2 kilometers out. We go in on foot. The terrain was hostile. Jagged rocks and thin atmosphere. Korth'ax's combat suit compensated, but movement was still difficult. They advanced in standard formation, weapons ready, sensors scanning continuously. Then Korth'ax saw it. A boot print, human-sized, in the dust between rocks. Fresh, maybe 6 hours old. We're close, he signaled to his team. Spread out, careful approach. They might mistake us for hostiles. They moved forward, and suddenly a voice cut through the silence on the emergency frequency. Identify yourselves, or we open fire. You have 5 seconds. Lieutenant Morales, this is General Korth'ax. We're here to extract you. A pause. Then, General? What are you doing out here? My cubs were very insistent that I not let their friends die in hostile territory. Are you intact? Define intact. We've got 2 wounded, limited supplies, and about 30 very angry Drakon between us and safety. But yeah, we're breathing. Korth'ax felt relief flood through him. Transmit your position. We're coming to you. The human squad had taken shelter in a collapsed cave system, natural rock formations providing cover. Lieutenant Morales emerged from the shadows, her uniform torn, a field bandage on her left arm, but her eyes sharp and alert. Never thought I'd be so happy to see you, General. The feeling is mutual, Lieutenant. Situation report? She led him inside, where 11 more humans were positioned defensively. 2 were clearly injured, being tended by a medic. The rest looked exhausted but ready to fight. We were on routine recon when Drakon fighters ambushed us. Shot down our transport, killed our pilot. We've been evading patrols for 2 days. They want prisoners, not bodies, which is the only reason we're still here. But they're getting more aggressive. Can your wounded travel? They'll have to. What's the extraction plan? Korth'ax activated his tactical display. 3 teams inserted at different points. We converge here. Create a defensive perimeter. Call in the heavy transport. But we need to move fast. The Drakon know we're here by now. Sergeant Webb limped over, a grin splitting his face despite the obvious pain. General, did the kids send you? In a manner of speaking. They provided valuable intelligence. Those little troublemakers. Bet Rynn mapped the whole sector, didn't he? Down to the meter. That's my boy. Webb laughed, then winced. Well, let's not waste the effort. We're ready when you are. The extraction was textbook perfect, right up until it wasn't. They were halfway to the rendezvous point when Drakon ground forces appeared, cutting off their route. 30 hostiles, heavily armed, moving to surround them. Defensive positions, Korth'ax ordered. His team and the humans merged seamlessly, training and instinct taking over. Return fire lit up the twilight as both sides exchanged shots. We're pinned, Morales shouted over the noise. Can't advance, can't retreat. Korth'ax assessed the situation with the cold clarity of decades of combat experience. They needed a distraction, something to break the Drakon formation, something unpredictable, something human. Lieutenant, what would you do right now if I wasn't here? She looked at him, understanding dawning. Something really stupid that probably shouldn't work. Do it. Morales grinned. That wild human grin that had terrified and fascinated the galaxy in equal measure. She turned to her squad. Webb, Anderson, Stevens. Remember that thing we're not supposed to do? Which one? Webb called back. We're not supposed to do a lot of things. The one from training exercise 47. Oh, that thing. Love that thing. Korth'ax watched as 4 humans broke from cover, not retreating but charging forward at an angle, firing as they moved. The Drakon, expecting conventional tactics, hesitated for just a moment. That moment was enough. The humans weren't attacking the main force. They were targeting the ground itself, the unstable rock formations that littered the area. Concentrated fire caused a cascade, tons of stone sliding down and splitting the enemy formation. Now, Morales screamed. Everyone move. They ran, all of them, alien and human together, using the chaos as cover. The Drakon tried to regroup, but the terrain worked against them. By the time they reorganized, Korth'ax's group had reached the extraction point. The transport descended like salvation, its weapons providing cover fire. They loaded the wounded first, then everyone else piled in. Korth'ax did a quick head count as the ship lifted off. Everyone was accounted for. The flight back to Alliance space was quiet. Exhaustion had set in, the adrenaline fading into bone-deep fatigue. Lieutenant Morales sat next to Korth'ax, both of them staring out at the stars. Your kids, she said softly. Are they okay? After everything? They're remarkable. Because of you and your squad. You showed them strength, resilience, hope. You gave them something I couldn't. A different perspective. We just kept them safe, General. No. You did much more than that. You showed them what it means to be part of something larger. To care for others even when it's difficult. To find light in darkness. Morales smiled, tired but genuine. Well, they taught us plenty too. Rynn beat me at chess more times than I care to admit. Kael showed us that size doesn't determine capability. And Mira reminded us all why we fight in the first place. To protect moments of joy. When we land, they'll want to see you. Good. I want to see them too. Got to tell them about their old man charging into hostile territory to rescue us. They'll love that story. Korth'ax's mandibles clicked in what might have been a laugh. Please don't encourage them. They're difficult enough already. The landing pad at Vraxis Prime was crowded. News of the successful rescue had spread quickly, and a small crowd had gathered. Korth'ax spotted his cubs immediately, standing with the protocol officer who'd been watching them. The moment the transport doors opened, 3 small figures broke free and sprinted forward. Father, you're back. You found them. Korth'ax caught his cubs holding them close, feeling their hearts beat against his chest. Safe. Everyone was safe. Lieutenant Morales and her squad emerged, looking worse for wear but alive. The cubs immediately ran to them as well, and the reunion was chaotic and loud and perfect. You came back, Mira said, tears streaming down her scaled cheeks. Of course we did, Morales replied, kneeling down. We're tough to kill. Besides, someone had to make sure your dad didn't get into too much trouble. I helped plan the rescue, Rynn announced proudly. My star charts were accurate to within 0.3%. Show off, Kael teased, but he was grinning. I provided psychological profiles. And I made sure Father remembered all your stories. Mira added. Sergeant Webb laughed, ruffling her head spines gently. You three are something else. You know that? Later that evening, after the debriefings and medical checks and official reports, Korth'ax stood on his quarters balcony. The twin moons of Vraxis Prime were rising, casting silver light across the city below. His cubs were asleep, finally, exhausted from the day's excitement. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new questions about interspecies cooperation, new discussions about the evolving nature of the Alliance. But tonight, Korth'ax simply felt grateful. His door chimed. He turned to find Elder Thrusika standing there, her expression softer than he'd ever seen it. General, I wanted to apologize. Elder, 6 months ago, I questioned your judgment. I called the humans insane. I suggested your cubs would be corrupted by their influence. She paused, her old eyes thoughtful. I was wrong. What they taught your offspring, what they've taught all of us, is invaluable. Humanity's chaos isn't madness. It's evolution in action. Constant adaptation, constant growth, constant hope. They're certainly unique, Korth'ax agreed. The Council wants to establish a formal cultural exchange program. Human soldiers stationed on Vraxis Prime, our youth spending time with human units, learning from each other, building bonds that transcend species. Korth'ax felt something shift in his chest, a sense of rightness. I think that's an excellent idea, Elder. Your cubs will be part of the program, of course, as ambassadors of sorts. They've already proven the value of such exchanges. After the Elder left, Korth'ax returned to the balcony. Somewhere out in that vast darkness, human ships patrolled the borders. Human soldiers laughed and argued and invented new ways to solve impossible problems. Humanity, with all its beautiful, terrifying, wonderful chaos, was out there making the universe a stranger and better place. His cubs stirred in their sleep, dreaming perhaps of card games and obstacle courses and friendship bracelets made from survival cord. Tomorrow, Rynn would probably get into advanced academy classes. Kael would set new physical training records. Mira would make friends across 3 species before lunch, and somewhere, somehow, it would all trace back to 3 days spent with humanity's finest, 3 days that changed everything. General Korth'ax smiled, his heart's full. Yes, humans were unpredictable. They were chaotic. They did things that made no logical sense. But they were also brave, loyal, creative beyond measure, and capable of profound kindness. The galaxy was better with them in it. And his cubs, marching in formation with lessons learned from the strangest teachers imaginable, were living proof of that truth. The Alpha had left his cubs with human soldiers. They had returned changed, stronger, wiser, and the universe would never be quite the same.